come on, Marvel, come on. You kept the secret for so long. You kept it through countless release date changes and through an entire pandemic. And then you just gave it up. Hey everybody, what's going on? Today we are going to be talking about a movie that's been a long time coming. A movie that's gone through countless release date changes and of course has been held back for an entire pandemic because Disney likes money. Yes, today we are going to be talking about the long-awaited Marvel's Black Widow, starring Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff, aka the Black Widow. I'm going to warn you, there might be some minor spoiler-ish things in this review. I do have to talk about some of the plot points because some of the plot points I liked and didn't like. So I am going to be talking about some plot points. Don't worry, I'm not going to give away any big secrets. But near the end of the review, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the big secret of this movie. While I won't give it away, what I say might give it away when you go to see it. But I have to talk about it because it's something that bothered me. And that, of course, is the identity of Taskmaster. So I'll just say this. If you don't want anything spoiled, while this movie does have some issues involving that I just mentioned about the identity of Taskmaster, while it did have just a ridiculous MacGuffin, I still enjoyed this movie. Yes, it even had a generic villain with Ray Winstone's character. But there was a lot to enjoy about this. It's a Marvel action movie, so you're gonna get some good action. I really enjoyed the family dynamic. It's a movie about family I did want to watch. But other than that, while I had issues with this movie, it's still enjoyable. I still recommend it. In the greater scheme of things, does it affect the overall Marvel movies? Yes and no. The movie takes place between Civil War and Infinity War, so it kind of sets some things up that happened in Infinity War in a way. And I will say this: the after credit scene connects. It connects technically to two of the TV shows, one that's out and one that's not. So there is that. But does it affect the movies overall? Like in the future, I doubt it. Other than maybe some characters may show up later. But anyway, I do recommend it. All right, so this movie, like I said, is set between Civil War and Infinity War. Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow is on the run, being chased down by Thunderbolt Ross. Of course, she embarrasses them because they think that someone is actually going to keep a tracker on them. But she's on the run, and she has this connection named Mason. He is kind of like her supply guy. He's an independent contractor, and he brings her equipment and gets her set up and fake passports and all that stuff. He's like her guy. He sets her up, and he brings her mail. And we find out earlier in the movie that Florence Pugh's character, Yelena, she is in the Black Widow program, the Red Room program, and they're chasing down someone, and this person introduces the MacGuffin of the movie. The MacGuffin of the movie is, and I hated this MacGuffin, but I didn't expect Shakespeare here. The MacGuffin is this red mist that can instantly wipe away years of brainwashing. So there you go. That's your MacGuffin for the movie. And anyway, while she's tracking down this person, the person hits her with the mist, and she's free of like 20 some years of brainwashing. Because, just like that. So anyway, she goes on the run, and she's given this mist by the person that she was tracking down. She sends it to Black Widow. And Black Widow, again, where it, in Indiana Jones fashion, brings the mist back to her when she tried to send it away. Kind of like when Indy brought his dad the Grail journal, and it's like, you brought it back to them. I was trying to get it away from him. So anyway, she thought maybe she would get the event. Yelena thought that Black Widow would get the Avengers involved in this, and she's like, well, we're kind of on the outs right now. And she's like, oh, great. So they end up having to work together to take down the Red Room, which still exists, even though we finally get to learn about Budapest. How Hawkeye and Black Widow are always talking about Budapest. Well, we find out about that mission, and that mission was to kill Dreykov, which is Ray Winstone's character, the head of the Red Room. But Yelena says, no, he's still alive. And, she's like, did you find a body? Of course you didn't. So they are going to go after him, destroy the Red Room. Of course, they're going to need help, so they track down their former Russian spy family, which is David Harbour's Alexei and Rachel Weisz's Melina, and they have to take down the Red Room. So that's the basic setup for your movie. I'm not going to really talk about it any more than that, but again, later I am going to talk about Taskmaster a little bit. Okay, what did I like about this movie? The family dynamic. I really enjoyed the Black Widow family, I guess we'll just call them, because we learn at the beginning of the movie that they're a Russian, spy cell family, and they're there to steal something, and they are at the end of their mission, we find out, but most of them want to stay. Yelena, who's young and doesn't understand, is ready to go on this adventure with her dad, but Melina, the quote-unquote mom, and Natasha are both like, we want to stay here. Can we just run? But no, Alexei makes them go, and this leads to Natasha and Yelena having to go back to the Red Room. Or for Yelena, it's the first time. She doesn't know what she's in for, and they do talk about the graphic details a little bit, talking about what they do to these women when they're at the Red Room. So what you have here is this family, which for Alexei and Yelena, actually, they admit that the family meant something to them, even though it's very fractured because Alexei sent the girls away and the mission was over. Melina, we find out some dark secrets about her later in the movie, why she's doing what she's doing. And of course, Natasha is just like, this family meant nothing. You meant nothing to me. But see, in the end, we find out that there was a bond there. And I really liked that aspect of the movie, that they had to find a bond together. And they realized that they cared about each other more than they are letting on. It's a Marvel movie. I thought the action was pretty good. Probably could have used a little more. Granted, that's just it though. The movie was actually taking its time with character development, so there's a little less action. I don't think the movie needed to be any longer, but I think we could have used a little bit more action. That being said, you get a lot of spycraft in this, especially near the end of the movie, so I did enjoy that. So that being said, okay, this movie does have issues, okay? First of all, the MacGuffin is pretty weak. It's a Marvel movie, and it's, the Marvel movie has unbelievable tech and everything else, so you can kind of let this one go. It's just hard to believe that a mist can take away 2 decades worth of brainwashing. That just bothered me a little bit, but it's like, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. But also you had Ray Winstone's character, Dreykov, very generic villain. He's easy to hate. I will say that. He's easy to dislike. So that's not a bad thing. But he just seemed like a less developed version of Brian Cox's character from X-Men 2. So, that I always liked William Stryker. I mean, Brian Cox, he made something out of a character that could have been seen as generic. Ray Winstone, a great actor, I love him, but he was just this generic character, just generic. I'm Russian bad guy, you know. And while again, it's easy to not like him because, and this plays into the quote unquote girl power of this movie, which actually really works, because you have, I mean, it's draped in reality a little bit because you have, Russia isn't exactly known for its women's rights. So you have this Russian character that's like, I'm just going to keep taking women because they're women and the world's full of them and they're basically useless. That's just kind of, it's like, I'm going to make them useful because women are useless. So that actually kind of worked for me because you got this Russian a-hole that is drunk with power and his dominance over females. And he, which of course we find out he had a daughter that is kind of involved in the Budapest thing. And so it's like, how are you going to treat your daughter? So he's just kind of he's kind of a Russian a-hole that wants to dominate women. And they actually have a scene between him and Black Widow where she's kind of giving him crap about how, oh, it's easier to pick on little girls, but still though, his character just felt very generic. Also, and while this kind of works, you have the Black Widow program itself. You have all these Black Widows, and none of them really have any personality other than they're Black Widows. That being said, that kind of works because that's just it. Their identities have been taken away from them, and they may or may not have a future, as doing whatever they want to do in life if they're able to be freed by said MacGuffin. At the beginning of the movie, I wasn't a fan of Yelena Belova. At first, I warmed up to her character because she became a little less annoying because for a lot of the beginning of the movie, all she did was just put Black Widow down. It was just like for maybe a third of the movie, she was just telling Black Widow how much she sucked. And it was just kind of annoying. And it did lead to a kind of a meta part of the movie. They talked about superhero landings, and it was, I don't know. If it's not Deadpool, don't get meta like that. It's just, it was kind of funny, but I'd rather see, the superhero landing stuff be talked about in a movie that involves meta humor, which I never want to look at Marvel movies and talk a lot about meta humor unless the plot calls for it. Like I could see, the Loki show doing meta humor because it's dealing with all sorts of realities and things. This is supposed to be more, a more grounded movie, and you've got Yelena talking about superhero landings. So yeah, I warmed up to her character a lot though. And in the end, you knew that this movie was kind of setting her up for something. We knew this going in. And I will say, well, I won't spoil it. And I said it in the intro, the after credit scene, involves one or two, technically it's going to be two of the shows, one that's out and one that's not. And it worked. I did enjoy the after credit scene. That being said, no, you know what? I better not say that because that'll give it away. I gotta be careful what I say. I don't want to spoil everything. So yeah, you've got a somewhat weak villain. The MacGuffin of the Black Widows thing it's passable. So let's talk about my MVP of the movie, David Harbour's Alexei. I knew I was going to love him going in, just what little bit I'd seen. And David Harbour's great in this. I loved him as the Red Guardian. I mean, he's funny, but he has some serious scenes. He has a pretty a close to tearjerker scene. I'm not going to say it was a tearjerker, but for the plot of this movie and that family dynamic, the scene worked really well. And then of course it plays into something bigger that happens right after. Okay, now's the point. Again, I'm not going to spoil it, but I am going to talk about Taskmaster. Taskmaster. I liked Taskmaster. I liked what they did with Taskmaster. It's way, of course, fans of the comic are probably going to hate it. I can tell you that right now. It's not the comic character, which in some ways is unfortunate, but they wanted to fit it to their narrative. So in some ways, I'm a little disappointed that they wasted a cool character like Taskmaster. And when I say wasted, I mean I don't expect to see the character again, but you never know, I guess. But when it comes to Taskmaster, it's definitely a different character. And here again, I liked what they did with the character, but here's again, if you don't want any idea of spoilerage, even though I won't say who Taskmaster is, tune out now. Just see the movie yourself. So you ready? Here we go. The Taskmaster character has been a secret since the idea of this movie came out, since we knew Taskmaster was a character. They never put a name. I mean, you could look up the stuntman, right? But that didn't mean anything. You could look up who was playing the stunt role of Taskmaster, but we didn't know who Taskmaster was going to be. It made it through countless release date changes. It made it through a pandemic. And then Marvel went and ruined it. Marvel went and ruined it. You have this character who's been kept secret the entire time, and you put who it is in the opening credits. When I saw a name appear in the opening credits, I said, that's Taskmaster. It's going to be. There's no way it's not. Look, Marvel threw up some red herrings of who it might be in the marketing and everything. But you know what? Once I saw the name in the credits, now you won't know who that character is until part of the way through the movie, and then you'll see a character and you'll be like, oh, that's Taskmaster. And sure enough, I was right, and it irked me. It really irked me. I would have rather them, the smart move would have been not put this person's name in the opening credits. You want to put in after credits when you know who the character already is, fine. But you put it in the opening credits. It was a person that I didn't even know was going to be in this movie. And when I saw they were in this movie, it's not like a huge, well-known actor, but they are well-known enough. They've been in enough big things that when you see their name, you're like, oh, unless they're some other super secret character, which there wasn't another big super secret character that we knew of, you knew that they were going to be Taskmaster. And I'm like, you ruined it. You ruined it. I still like the character. I still like what they did with the character, even though it's not the comic character. But man, they ruined it. The opening credits ruined this secret that would have been a pretty cool reveal if you would have kept it secret, if you would have kept their name out of the opening credits. It drove me nuts. Again, I liked what they did story-wise. It's fine. But it would have been a better surprise if you hadn't given me that name and I would have known who it was. So anyway, that irked me a little bit. But again, I still like Taskmaster. I like what they did with it. So that worked for me. But all in all, look, Black Widow, it was a good movie. I wouldn't put it on the upper echelon of Marvel movies. Other than the after credits scene, you could have brought this movie out. You could have brought it out, after Civil War, and it would have made a lot of sense. But that being said, then they tacked on the after credit scene. It's like, well, okay, you can't do it now. Of course, they could have teased something for Infinity War instead, even when technically the end of this movie does kind of tease something that happens in Infinity War. But yeah, other than the after credit scene, this could have came out after Civil War. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it. I liked the characters. Again, the MacGuffin's a little weak. The villain's a little weak. The action's good. The family dynamic's good. So it's still worth seeing. I still enjoyed it. Would I have paid $30 on Disney Plus? I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I used my A-list for that and I didn't have to pay anything. But was it worth waiting through the pandemic for? Should they have released it during the pandemic? Honestly, I think they should have. I know they wanted to wait for their at theater money, and that's business. I mean, I get it, but I think I don't know. It's a good movie. I won't. I'm not going to put the movie down to where anything bad about it. I'm not going to say any the bad stuff ruins it because it doesn't. It's worth seeing. I enjoyed it, but could it have been a better movie? Yeah, with stronger villains, keeping your secret a little more secret at least until a certain point in the movie. Because yeah, like I said, when that Taskmaster mask came off, I'm like, big surprise. I knew exactly who it was going to be. But it has its weaknesses. But you know what? I still enjoyed it. I still recommend it. Black Widow is still worth checking out. See you later.